Welcome, everyone, to Dojo Monday night, Groundhog Day, February 2nd, 2026. And it looked like James put an open invitation, so hopefully we get some new people. That'd be awesome. The show was great today, James. I haven't digested it all, but the Arc of Baphomet work, getting the perfect timing, reintroduction. Love the starting it off with this 666. And then I was like, wow, 3 6s, 369 Tesla code. 3 6s makes an 18, which equals a 9, which is a completion number. And so, of course, making that kind of thing you're not supposed to look at when you're made of it was a perfect way to look at hermaphroditic natural home state of the heros gamos of the both inside of the self and selfing self. And I was thinking about a mother phallus. And, you know, there's like the creatress of not just thinking of the hermaphrodite as like primarily as a male. It's just as much as you flipping the script on a female having a penis and making creation. This is like a super important thing for like we get our mindset into these bicameral minds and then we forget to flip it in both directions.
Yeah.
You know?
The horned Venus is the one way of looking at that. I really find that fascinating because the symbol of Mercury is this horned Venus. It's not the same as male and female combined. If so, you would see Venus and Mars, those two symbols would be superimposed, right? And one would be the upside down cross, the other would be the arrow, and one would be 45 degrees off. That's not what's happening at all. No. The hermaphrodite is the horned Venus. It's a female that has horns. Or the male that has the viscous Pisces. It's exactly like what you're saying. And your animus and your anima, I think, is all mixed into this. And I'll tell you this. If you really dive into this stuff, I think it's going to ruin your fucking sexuality. When I say ruin it, I mean the traditional way that you found sexuality, the way that you interface with it, I think profoundly changes after you absorb this material properly. I'm not saying it goes away. I'm saying that it changes it.
Mm-hmm.
That you start to find that epiphysis turns you on. You start to find that the you're no longer being turned on by the fact that you think you found your missing piece. When you have a missing piece that you found a it feels good, it feels great, it feels wonderful. And it's came from this almost slave-like mentality because you were lacking something. You were lacking something and now it's found. This anima animus thing is a very different thing. This is a very different thing. This is finding that other thing in you. You are that thing. Your gender, I swear your gender disappears. You're still a male, you're still a female. This is different. Talking about the way that you look at your identity.
Yeah.
It sounds really creepy, but it I would describe myself, I think of myself in that way. And I'm subject to a completely different world of what turns me on. And it's a lot more natural. It's a lot more about selfness. I find selfness a turn on. I don't find here's the optimal shape of my missing piece that I picture. Because that's one way, oh, the man that I'm missing, a woman might think the man that I'm missing has big chest and a beard and he's very handy and that's a way of looking at it, just as I would show you all the sculptures or drawings I've done of like my missing pieces. Like, yeah, she looks like this and she looks like this, and it's very different. It's I'm turned on in a very different way, and it's more because I'm recognizing the royalty. This is how I see it, the royalty of others. I swear to fuck, if you went back in the times of old, if you take this Noah thing seriously, like what I talked about today, that Noah was roofied, uh, basically, by his son in order to procure another hermaphrodite from Noah. He had to have sex with his dad, and that this is the curse of Ham. Just to catch you up if you missed the stream, but uh, th- if you picture that ever existed, you would see a royalty existing, a kingship that existed, where the people that had that animus anima connection were not didn't feel themselves broken psychically, but more importantly had this biological ability to do things that you and I could not do, and that it would be quite difficult to imagine how they would not be considered a superior being, despite the fact that I argue that it actually is sort of like a less superior being because it doesn't have the capacity to lie, and it doesn't have the capacity to run, and it doesn't have the capacity to, it can't burn out its olfactory system, right? So it smells like a horse. So when it sits in the room with you, it knows every single thing you're about to do before your neocortex even knows what you're going to do yourself. The horse fucking knows. He knows because he smells you. He smells you. And he knows you before you because as we've already studied with the brain, it's 500 milliseconds behind your awareness is even behind that. So the horse technically knows you more than you do because you're stuck in this conscious state and you've burned out your nose, you burned your nasal hairs and destroyed your ability to smell a long time ago because you turned into this being that was no longer a hermaphrodite. And honestly, fertility got great. It turned into community, it turned into commerce, it turned into religion. Think of all the things that came from the installation of you feeling like you're broken, of you having an ancestral memory that my Noah was a 900-year-old he she, or as the Hebrew would call it, she.
She, yeah,
That's literally the name of Yahweh opened up.
yeah.
That's not That's not a coincidence. Those guys take everything seriously. You don't think they're going to spend some time on what are we going to call the name of God? I mean, they're going to put some time into that. And that word, out of any other word, of all the gematria that we study and we say rules the world, the gematria of God's name is the biggest clue. It's just right there, just showing its genitals to you, just like opens its coat, just like, look at me, man. I'm naked as fuck. And I'm Shehi. My name is Shehi. Yahweh is Shehi. What the fuck?
I was thinking about the genetic traits carrying down the line, if you ever looked at your toes, there's supposedly this the middle, the second to the biggest one that's longer. It's called the Roman toe, right?
Hmm.
It has this Roman thing. And then like I have flat feet. So there's some part of me that was an acorn eater. And I have a really, really superb smell. So I think that there's like probably some kind of like mixture. I'm not, I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Hey, so there's some new people in the room. Just give you the heads up. The reaction thing is down at the bottom. Raise your hand if you'd like to be called on. Love to hear from you. The topic is if you have something in your, you're processing something, it's a good place to bring it. You want to talk about the topic? James has been delivering some really good, juicy stuff. It's a great time to ask some questions. And I'll call on people's hands in order. And Brad's hands up. So go ahead, Brad.
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
Good. Good to see
Uh,
you, brother.
yeah, good to see all y'all too. So, as we're talking about gender and stuff, James, and you were talking about the idea of, like you said, not that we're talking about not sex change, but the gender. And with age of Aquarius and hermaphrodite and all this sort of stuff, here's what I'm wondering because this is something I feel like I struggle with, and I kind of, as a younger lad, uh, being fully myself because in any way I was told it was effeminate or it was a feminine quality. You feel I gotta be macho, but that's kind of what I'm saying is like, is this what you're saying of where we're getting to with like just where our sex is our sex, but as far as identifying with masculinity and femininity in a way of exclusive that we're more expressing ourselves, able to express ourselves more honestly in terms of just the emotions of the energies we feel, and that maybe going forward, like with the idea that Bill Burr has this great bit where he did last year. He's talking about how men aren't supposed to cry, or men aren't supposed to have problems, men aren't supposed to have feelings. I think that's what it was. But he did a great little bit on it. But that's kind of what I'm wondering is like when I first saw the trans stuff, initially I plugged in from the sex side and was thinking that there's this inherent thing about sexuality. I did not separate the idea of gender and sex. And is that the whole idea with trans and all this coming on? Is this what we're thinking? Is like this is just not you've been talking about, but blowing this whole thing wide open to where we no longer feel constricted, man and woman, by these sort of things, right?
Yeah.
I just
Yeah. In fact, I was pulling something up to show people. Um, First of all, I just yesterday there's a 17-year-old. I think it was. Yeah, it was a girl. It still is. This is a person, and they had a mastectomy because of a gender dysphoria. Right? They wanted to feel more like a man. At 17, they sought permission from a doctor to approve this procedure, and they had their breasts removed, and then now they're suing the doctor because they feel that was wrong. And this is, I just touched on this. It's a very I think it shows even more the pleomorphic quest we have to find our ability to change. I think our ability to pleomorphically, just like when you heal, you're pleomorphically moving cells around and changing shape. That all the body modification, the manipulation, even circumcision, you could argue, is a cry from a petrified pleomorphic being that doesn't want to be petrified anymore, that wants to have the ability to change, to morph and change. And this is an advanced kind of gear. It requires the psyche to be developed enough that it can change transmission midlife, that it can do things just in the middle of stuff. And you could look at gears kind of like what I'm showing you now, where you have a Tom and a Jane. Tom is closer to the male spectrum. Jane is closer to the female spectrum. But then you have down here, you have a Pat from Saturday Night Live, right? You have this entire sketch built where you don't know if it's male or female. And why is that? Because it's closer to the androgyne. Now, Pat actually had a lot of padding in her upper chest, the costume that they had. And so you may even want to argue that Pat should be moved up here towards hermaphrodite. This is a four axis gear. You have male on the left, female on the right, but then you have hermaphrodite forward, then you have androgyne backwards. The expression of your sexuality is its own gender. I hope that you find that profound, what I just said. The expression of this is its own gender. If you express yourself in a more, if your body is more into having a fertility, whether you be man or female, to express that more is a kind of gender. Therefore, you have tomboys. Therefore, you have Jane girls. Why don't we have that expression? But we have the
yeah.
personality. We have effeminate men. We have masculine women, and that this is just the other axes, the other gender. But we live in a society that has been trained in the art of fertility to build culture around it. It's not really about Christ. It's really, you're looking at a fertility cult, a fertility cult that has what they call traditional family values. And there's a lot of hyena territory here, that people that are pretending to have traditional values are fighting against the other ones that they think don't have it. It's a complex mosh pit, but ultimately, I think that society is built around a fertility cult. American society is built around the fertility cult, the nuclear family. And there's nothing wrong with this. We're going to have to pick a cult. We're going to have to develop some way to call ourselves that. And you're seeing that. In the city, you have a more, what we would call maybe a liberal or progressive mindset, but that's a different kind of fertility cult in the city, isn't it? You don't raise a, I mean, I know there's exceptions, but you don't necessarily raise a family in the city. If you do, it's not a traditional fertility cult family. It's more of a, it takes a village. And this is just the gear of society. And that gear of society, if it loses itself, all hell breaks loose. This is what we fear. And honestly, this is what happens. We lose ourselves. It'd be so great if America could shake itself loose and all of us could just be states again. Be fucking fantastic. There would be no more national angst. It would be impossible to have national angst. It could only exist on a state level.
Then how would we handle the national debt?
it's so this paradigm.
OnlyFans, Brad. OnlyFans will do it. I think you bring up a huge point though. We'll evolve into Furby, right? Like furry people. We all have our own identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter about producing.
If I can show this again, to me, this is the key. What's really happening, it's not really about gender. It's just framed as gender right now. To me, it's really more about what's happening here, the taxonomy of identity. The taxonomy of identity. This is the taxonomy. You're Kari, that's you're Kari in the sense of you're a nuclei, you're a communal nucleic celled organism. You're in the kingdom of Animalia. You're in the phylum of Chordata. You have a spinal cord. You're in the class of Mammalia. You have the order of Primalias, the familia of Hominidae, the genus of Homo, the species of Sapiens. I know you get that. Technically, you actually are a species of a species. We're the Homo sapiens sapien. But if you keep going up on that identity, the next species above that is you, your identity. Your actual name is its own species. And this is the part that we're breaking the paradigm on. We're forming a new taxonomy because each of your identities, everyone's identity becomes its own gender. And it does that because you have this axis of Pat, Tom, and Jane. The zygote is born in the middle. The zygote at creation is born directly in center, 0,0. And as soon as the code unravels, as soon as the transcription starts to begin, the destiny of the sexuality, whatever's been programmed in the 23rd, is established here, and you end up moving more female or more male or more hermaphrodite or more androgyne. So this matrix of XY is every single person's gender in the world would fit somewhere on here, and they would all look uniquely different.
So real quick, the difference between hermaphrodite and androgyne now, are you saying that the hermaphrodite is more toward the fertility side and
Yes.
androgyne? Okay.
Yes. So an androgyne, if I can be just really simple, an androgyne would be like a ballerina. It's kind of, I mean, not like a male ballerina. Those guys, they're carrying around a pretty big package, but like a female ballerina, I'm sorry, I'm being vulgar, but like a female ballerina is, it's very less about, it's more about athleticism. But say a bar winch, your traditional bar winch icon, is completely the opposite of that, right? So one would be androgyne, one would be hermaphroditic. The elves in Lord of the Rings, that's more androgyne. The trolls, the dwarves, those are a little bit more hermaphroditic.
I got you.
So as your genes move in and out of your fertility phase, and that could be generated by a million different reasons. There could be a million epigenetic reasons why you would want to be in a high fertility phase in a society that maybe has a low fertility phase or a high fertility phase. So this is why when you start to look at it, this as being your own taxonomy, you're on your own vector. You control when that fertility wave would come. I don't just mean in your life, although you do. I'm talking about in your entire species, the arc of your species itself, right? That you would need to enter into the world and grab onto whatever the cult's going to be to flux or exercise the algorithms, the demons, honestly, that are living in your genes that are gonna expose themselves. You're gonna turn 7 and something's gonna come out and you're gonna be, okay, now this is in my reef and now this is in my reef, You get it. You fuckers are haunted. All of you are demonically haunted, just like me. So, it's We're going to need to express a shape anyway for all these things to fit in. So it occupies our sexuality. Maybe we learn to deal with that. One of my best friends from high school, just total sex addict, could not function without Loida or without Amy, without all these different girls that he dated through his life. It was the death of him, literally. He died on Valentine's Day from a heart condition.
Having sex with Lolita.
Who knows? He was probably
He went out doing what he loved, right?
he was probably haunted by romances his entire life.
Wow.
And honestly, he kind of looked like this statue of David, like a human version of that. And it's like I don't know how he could have avoided this kind of life where he would find it's you get it. It's going to be your destiny is going to really determine a lot of these things. Your taxonomy is, I think, pre-built. This is what I'm talking about. I think you really more look at it as your entire plant, your entire epigenetic species going back. I'm a victim to, I mean this lightly, but I'm a victim to my grandfather's urges. Actually, I'm a victim to my grandfather's unrequited urges.
Exactly. See, that's why I think this whole idea of identity is, I'm so excited about kind of the world in that way, is because I feel like so much of this is tied to a lot of the like even in politics, right? Like we talked about the nature of why people want to choose a red or a blue team. Mostly it's about identity, right? If they don't have their own, they need a team, they need a group. And if we are really seeing an acceptance of more individual identity, I wonder how many problems that we right now are kind of dealing with are aspects of just people not being able to be comfortable in their own identity to begin with, that just kind of go away.
Yeah, and that's a lot of that static, that inflammation is you're right or I'm wrong, or I'm right and you're wrong. That's just inflammation. And that ultimately, Brad, I think you could argue that being way left or being way right, that's a gender too. There's really nothing wrong with living in a life where
Yep.
you're have a much more liberal mindset. It's
Yeah.
typically it's the other people that are accusing you. Like there's the matrix really is how we see each other. We tend to see each other. Oh, well, that's a male and that's a female. We'd like to pretend that's legit, you know.
Right.
And
Well, just
and
like we were talking about color this weekend too, a little bit on Dojo Radio, right? How our genetics, what we present as, doesn't tell the full story of like your genetics, just the dominant genes, right?
yeah, and this I think we could unlock a whole new realm in healing, and then after healing, I think we would unlock a whole new realm in chimerism.
Mhm.
But I think at first it would come from healing. And the healing would only come from a trusted government trough that keeps failing us. So, as long as we have something that keeps failing us medically, then we have exactly the kind of milk we need to develop our own taxonomy, our own ability to heal ourselves. So it's really important that we keep falling for Fauci. It's really important that we keep the RFK thing is fucking beautiful. That this RFK thing, putting RFK exactly in that place, I think has done more to make people find their center, their informed consent, or whatever you want to call that. This is an assemblage point, is it not? Your confidence that you have in your medical information is going to be in someone's hands. And hey, I'm going to preach to the choir a sec because a lot of you guys, I'm talking about me, have spent since 2020 even disparaging those who consider vaccines valuable. And I've tried to say this politely. I think that's wrong too, because you're not offering the ability for someone to have a codependency because you're ashamed of being a slave. You're ashamed of that, which is why when you see others tap into it, you're not willing to admit that you're tapping into it too. And I tapped into it to get here. You guys tapped into it to get here. And you're tapping into it now. And tomorrow, I hope that you will tap into something else. I hope you will become a little bit more lefty or a little bit more uh, esoteric or a little bit less this, a little bit more flat earth, a little bit less flat earth, all those things. See, The only reason why you think those ideas are wrong is because you're listening to the inflammation of the group reacting to each of you developing your own taxonomy. You've raised past species into the identity. I am a James Truian. I'm my own species called James True. And if you wanted to produce another like me, you can, but you're going to need my DNA. And you can do that. You're going to be able to take the nucleus of any of my skin cells, preferably the thigh, probably. You're going to want to find that. It's been transcribed the least. It has the least amount of errors, probably. And you're going to find that. You're going to find a vessel. You're going to put a shell into it. You don't even need to fertilize it. You've got everything you need now. You pleomorph your entire life. How do we do it when we're adults? We have to let go of the inflammation. We have to drop the fact that we are insisting that each of us only has 5 fingers. We have to, guys, we have to allow your neighbor to grow a tail. When you meet your neighbor that has a tail, you have to consider that your neighborhood has been blessed. And isn't this what the worship of the hermaphrodite would have looked like in the Old Testament? It would have looked like this. This is what happens when you go to what's that place, Lori? The one in New Mexico,
Chaco Canyon.
yeah, and you find, why are these princesses, why do they have a penis? Like, why are they structured for as men, but they're dressed up as princesses, and why do they have 6 fingers? Why are they covered in jade and turquoise? Why is all the gold and copper inside this one box? And it's just like, duh. Why the fuck would it not be there? Why would it not be? So yeah, and what's cool is the Oracle of Conspiracy has this theory that the world's run by transvestites that are controlling the world, secret hermaphrodites, and I'm telling you, without whispering, yeah, the world's hopefully the fucking world's run by fucking hermaphrodites that can pleomorph. That's what I'm hoping. They got fucking chimera wings. And they can't live around us because as soon as they land, their wings melt. We Icarus the fuck out of those guys. We call them angels. They say you don't even have a dick. Angels are androgynous. They are. That's the definition. Angels are pure androgynous. They ain't got no parts. And this is how you would look at a hermaphrodite if you can't face the fact that these guys are selfing, that these demons are able to repeat themselves, and you're a demon living in your DNA too. It's just all code, and you, during a ceremony when Ken and Barbie get together, you're just combining that code and you're selfing, but you're just having someone co-sign your loan. That's really all. So you're still selfing. We've just taken away the authority from ourselves. I say we did because I see all the information there. I see all the science there. We haven't even started to talk about CRISPR. I'm not even saying CRISPR is the answer, but when you start to look at what we've done with CRISPR, it's just like, holy fuck, guys, there's no way we haven't done this before, because when you look in that 23rd chromosome, there's like a control panel there. It's fucking weird. It's really fucking weird how we're wired that way. We've got a little utility box waiting for us, the ability to change things, to customize things, and the radioactive markers you can see in a microscope. You can like look at yourself and go, oh, here's your VIN number. You've got a VIN number in your DNA. You could change that configuration and the pleomorphic stuff takes over. The only thing stopping you is society. We got a hand up.
Yep. And I'm going to try to call your name, but I have no glasses on. So go ahead. It starts with a D.
Yeah,
Introduce yourself. Yeah.
I am Diraj. I wanted to talk about, you're the translator of the solar and the lunar forces. So if you dissect the sun as the masculine and the moon as the feminine, you're kind of that lens observing the both of them. And the implosive nature of how life and seeds are germinated. I take the sort of Dan Winter stance of sort of charge collapse and observer conditions in terms of like encouraging how the etheric charge collapse factorizes into the dense material storytelling in front of you through different, alchemical sublimations. But yeah, I just wanted to point out the moon and the sun,
Mm,
and you are Hermes
mm.
looking, whipping your head back and forth, contemplating the moon. Oh, like, wow, how beautiful. And then in the morning, you're saying, wow, the sun is rising. And then this loop, of course, continues and factorizes into all the numbers of how things, you know, continue to live and die. Anyway,
Thank you, Daraj.
yeah,
I love Dan Winter's work, and the Planck, and then Bliss being the collapse of the wave of the charge for, truly the connection of that solar lunar. And I was thinking about the dark moon. When there's no new moon, the dark side of the moon is facing the sun. And sometimes the moon is out in the middle of the day. Now, that just totally blew my mind to how that works. Like, how does that work? I mean, so everything that we think cosmology, I think we need to a little bit unlearn. So opening, like with James's work, go to opening up your aperture to not even knowing if Dan's work on Planck is the smallest. But
yeah,
to collapse the wave is, like how do you make that charge, like, so I'm kind of like really opening on my mind to like not even knowing. I mean, we only know one side of the moon. We don't know the other side of the moon. What is
right.
that? Right? And do we really know what the sun is? Because that's just like plasma, and like plasma is alive. It's creation on steroids, what's happening right now solarly. So I really like what you had to say. I really think Dan is a genius, and I love following his work too. So thanks for
Yeah. Can I say just about Dan's work? There's a notorious thing. He says he struggles with getting into like the astrals, and sort of how he talks to people, or the people he's collaborating with are very much astral travelers, right? And there's this implosive nature to astral travel or dream time or
Mhm.
cohesiveness. And yeah, so there's a bit of convincing yourself, and a bit of astrology. I think astrology placement that sort of influences that translation of where you go in dream time, or how you are kind of communicating with that dark side of the moon, you know,
Mm.
lunar, motherly, matriarchal energies that could possibly be attached to the imaginary, subconscious, right? You're pulling from the dark energy, or perhaps the invariance of that uh, gravitational body
Yeah.
influencing the tides, right? And it can somehow be hijacked by the Nazis, right? Or whatever else can be implanted as sort of a seed, or, same with healing. I like to go a bit biblical with the faith the size of mustard seed. You're sort of, how do you implode that concept of generation or regeneration into motion back into time, and
Mm.
how do you actually access that mechanic of the twinkle in the eye, you know very
Yeah.
best.
It's such a mystery, and I really like how you're tying it in, and James's work is really tying it in biblically and what's going on mythology wise of this creation. We can get so far out there and like, but deciphering it within in self. It's all selfing. I love that we're kind of coming into this both end as we become individualized selves. So with that,
Is
Lauren,
the
yeah, go ahead,
is the
James.
unseen side like the dark, just not unmanifest potential, right? Like the
That's
infinite unseen.
that's the mother phallus, right? it's like this creatrix or like
Right.
aspect of the divine of the feminine that people don't maybe necessarily see. Maybe it is the create. It has a phallus
The
and it.
white hole.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. I'm just kind of
Yeah, a
pondering
lot
it.
of cultures will say the moon is actually masculine.
Exactly. In
And
Japan, it's
so,
masculine.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you could look at it as uh if you're if you're born female and you express yourself that way, the sun maybe would be female,
Yep.
the moon would be male.
Yep.
But again, the inflammation is cohesion. And if you think about it, the you would need a realm. I just look at it through cellular hallucination that you don't have to explain anything. You're always at a zoom. You're always at a scope. So if you zoom in, quote quote, to the microscopic level, and then you keep going, all you're really doing is seeing the same world, but it's just cropped in a different uh, uh, space. So if you crop in something, your hallucination fills in the details of what would need to be there to facilitate that level. So if you're looking at the universe through a telescope, you're probably closer to looking at things from an electron level because of how far away you are from those two zooms. Those two zooms are the same distance apart. You're in the middle of those zooms. One is really, really a lot bigger, and one is really, really a lot smaller. And the reason why those two things look the same is because the world is this spherical hallucination in the sense of the beginning and the ending. The further you get away from them, that shoehorns back into the center again. And so they end up looking the same. This is why I advocate for the oracle mythology, because I honestly think this is how we've been seeing this way long before we built language and causality and stopped seeing that way. We stopped seeing mythologically because the causal seeing that we learned to do later through society, through majority rule, gave us a lot of calories. It allowed us to build a society and gain understanding. But that mythological way of seeing things is the true visionary state of how your eyes work. The the shadows on the cave are you are painting those because it helps you navigate a complex world. You're the one painting the shadows on the cave wall. Stop pretending you're being enslaved by something else. These are your hallucinations. What if you could make them better? What if you could relax and stare into them more and realize, look, I can leave the cave, that's fine, but if I stay here, it could be that I'm telling myself something I need to know. I need to trust this process maybe. Maybe. And that's a fool's gamble. No one's going to buy that in a cave where everyone's saying we're all slaves here. You can't push that. They're going to think they're going to accuse me of being in CIA, aren't they? They're going to say I'm a Luciferian working for them because I'm telling you to relax. I'm telling you, hey, maybe all this is natural. You can't fucking do that here. It's also ruining the horror movie. I'm ruining the horror movie. I apologize.
Good stuff. Lauren, your hands up. Go ahead. Good to see you. Oh, can't hear you. Try again. Oh, leave and come back. Get your little Mikey thing to worky. I know she has good stuff to say. So, yeah.
If you look at it through this hallucinatory lens, then you would start to understand why you would have to have a sun in this picture, why you would have to have a moon in this picture, while
Yep.
all the death card would have to be there, while the entire tarot would have to be expressed in the physicality of the objects, because the tarot is a resolution of 52 pixels, 4 arcanum, 13 series, numeric series of each. And that's a resolution. That's a 1920 by 1080, but instead it's 4 by 13 resolution. You're looking at the same world in 4 by 13 resolution. Why do you think we use tarot? Because it's the ability to tap out into the low resolution that only has 52 different interpretations and that this is exactly, what's really spooky is this is exactly how AI works. It reduces the complexity of the image to determine, well, what would this image look like? James wants an image of a dragon. What would it look like at 4 pixel by 4 pixel? And you can picture that. You can be the worst artist in the world. If I say I want a dragon flying in the air, and if you said, well, what would 6 pixels by 6 pixels look like? You would have a border around it that's a little bit blue, and then the middle would be sort of gray. And this is what AI does. It starts with that. Then it's like, okay, what would the next level look like? And that's the learned skill because it's hallucinating what you told it. Your limbic brain is recalling all of the emotional prompts, all of the cattle prods, the 3 trillion cattle prods that are your limbic system. The last time I said ice cream cone, boom, those just came back. All 3 trillion cattle prods were set the same. This includes your fear quotient to each one. How nervous you are about recalling that again. More importantly, how nervous were you when you learned that? What was the posture that you were taught? There are 3 trillion cattle prods, which means there are 3 trillion ghosts in the machine that can be haunted by your genes. The way you remember limbic feelings, this is PTSD, but epigenetically, has to be what alcoholism is. Inherited alcoholism is the same thing. It's basically just epigenetic PTSD because your sensory system has learned to hold a certain posture when certain words come up, but there's not words, it's just sensory experiences, the experiences themselves. So all of your pleomorphic power comes in your conscious posture when you're receiving signal. And when you recall signal, you're receiving it. You get to rewrite your limbic imprint simply by recalling it in a more peaceful, passive way, or in a more constructive way. If you have anger about someone, and you think about them, and you feel anger, and you think about them, and you feel anger, this is a limbic memory that's in your body, and when you're not conscious of it, you know that your reef is occupied by this ghost. This ghost is haunting through your reef and changing all your decisions. And you're able to gain the awareness that this fucking eel, this lionfish, is destroying the entire ecosystem of who I think I am. And so you start to pleomorphically figure out a way to exercise yourself from these demons. And that's not easy to do because no one's teaching you how. No one has ever sat down and told you, hey man, you want to manipulate 3 trillion cattle prods that are wired into your brain? We can't even fathom how you do that. I'm the closest person, I'm sorry to claim this, I'm the closest motherfucker that's come to even explaining how this even works, seriously. And I'm a freaking idiot. Like, this is the closest we'll come. I did not realize my camera's off, sorry. that this is the closest we'll come. It's all we have is metaphor. There's too many circuits. There's too many limbic circuits for you not to use metaphor to change each one of them. For you, this is why cosmology is the only way to change your posture. It's the only way, which is why I have to use music. I have to use drama. I have to use feeling. I have to use calligraphy.
Yep.
Right? That's the only way because you will match my groove, but only if I'm grooving in that right way. So I have to play the right song that puts that into me so it's transferable into you. And then we just learn all these postures. But my 3 trillion postures isn't exactly perfect either. It's just maybe got a little bit less kinks than you do. And ultimately, you're never going to be able to make it as a James True taxonomy. I'm not going to be able to make it as your taxonomy. Ultimately, you're going to have to find your own shape. And that's a lonely road, man. That's this one thing, you know.
I was listening to this PhD, well, as a doctor, Oxford trained in music, and his notation, he's written 40 books, and he talked about the language of music and how his brain worked and making notations for his books in mathematical language of music and in the code of math. And like as a coder, James, you would get this. It's like perfect grammar to make a good code. But he has this code that he uses to connect all the dots that he connects. And he is an amazing researcher. He's done a lot of like, his name is Dr. Farrell. And it's just like fascinating with playing the organ. Um, his the way his brain was working and understanding how the way the brain works on the creative side is the music, but it's very organized mathematically. So I found that fascinating as I'm like deep diving into like my own calligraphy. Like when I close my eyes, you told me to look at something, I can't see it, but I can see patterns in the future and I can see geometric patterns, but I can't imagine like an apple in my brain. I dream, but
Yeah.
I can't. But
Yeah.
that's the way my brain works.
And I don't think that we have a society that even knows that. I don't think most people even know. Oh, I can't picture stuff like that. Or like I say, I can texture it. I can feel the
Yeah.
texture of an apple. I can.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it right now. I can feel
Yeah.
it right now. Don't say pear because I really love that. That feels so great. I'm not even talking about the hairy ones. I'm talking about the soft pears. That's a very different texture. It's a very specific.
Yes, it is. I can
can
feel that
picture
too.
that. I can
Yeah.
picture that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, all of us are different. All of us have our genius transducer in a different spot. And I think that's the epigenetic posture you've learned over the years, probably from your grandfathers, or, grandparents, that it's just that last thing. Hey, this worked really well. And that's the only reason why it probably felt good, because you're just like, that just feels natural. It's why some people are lefties and some people are righties too. It's probably something to do with that.
Yeah. Okay. Spencer, your hand's up. Good to see you.
Hi, thank you for having me here. First of all, I just want to thank James in person again. It's been a while since I came on here, and just thank you for like just doing your thing, because it really like makes me feel a lot less kind of alone out there. That there's like actually people that are just driving to your rhythm, and it was just like too many like synchronicities in a row that had me even come on here. And then like I just was watching the latest it was Sarah who Pow on the Dan Winter channel. Like I was just watching that before here, and then Darish brought up Dan Winter, and then I was thinking about how, so the few last little bit of time I've done, bits of ketamine, and my partner like went so deep that they died and got rebirthed, and like they the whole time like they're watching someone's consciousness leave them, and all they can say is, I'm so scared. Why? What's happening? I'm so scared. And like and then come back, and like the whole, and the thing you like uh, I'm like offering them an ice cream cone, just like trying, I don't know, the sugar thing, and I'm just offering them ice cream. They're just like, I'm so scared. And I'm just like, ice cream? And like just having a conversation about like, you're just scared of the shadows on the wall, and how it's funny to get into these states where it kind of all makes sense, and exactly what you're saying, you can see it and you figured it all out, and then like the thing shifts. Like you said something at some point about the sentence, and it's either the noun or the verb, and like you can almost see the mirror switch, and then you're in this other consciousness or this other place, and you're able to just get it, and then you're back here, and you're back here like reeling from your epigenetic trauma, and also what the woman was talking about on the Dan Winter channel, which is part of all of this is like there's all kinds of bacteria and fungus and other DNA things like mitochondria and like all these other factors that are molding and shaping the way that I am. And I don't know. I just wanted to like kind of bring up all the synchronicities and cool shit that I thought just like all kind of just went down. And I don't know. I feel like the last year or so has been like, the main reason I feel not so crazy is because of James, and I'm just so like thankful for him and everyone here to like just like get into this stuff because I've been like a fly on the wall, like watching, wanting to hop back in, and yeah, I'm here doing that. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. It's all patron. Like seriously, it's so freaking dope that we have patrons. It's the only reason why we have this tent. So I'm as thankful as you are by it. And I wanted to say real quick, if you picture what the sun is, every cell in your body, literally every cell, because your epidermis is all dead skin. So every living cell in your body doesn't get to see the sun that you see. There's not a single cell in your body that sees the sun the way you see it. It doesn't. There, your body's full of cells. It's chock full of cells. And none of those cells are on the outside. And the only cells that are on the outside are dead cells. So if you start to think about yourself, your ketamine self, your animized self, your atum, because I swear that's who it is. It's the Egyptian atum. It's the basic atom of who you are. Your essential Osiris minuscule is a assemblage point that you placed in your body. And the place that you put it in your body is your taxonomy, your species, your identity is just nothing more than where your focus is right now. Just where it is. If you think about it this way, I want you to reimagine, well, what the fuck is the sun? Because inside the cell's going to receive, the mitochondria do too. We have a complex form of photosynthesis, but just to explain, we basically have photosynthesis too. It's just a little bit, it's reverse photosynthesis, but we gather power the same way. There's an magnetic force, an electrical pulse that's being felt on the bilipid shells of our cells that first comes in. It hasn't hit our nucleus yet, and it starts to imbue all the shit floating around in your outer shell wall, and it's giving it power. It's receiving things. And then inside your nucleus, you have to start to imagine what is happening inside your cell. And what's happening in your cell is that you're collecting a lot of energy right now. You're collecting a lot of energy and you're in the bridge, but your bridge doesn't have a window because you're living in the middle of your armpit, like underneath the skin, like you're nowhere near the surface. So how do you see the world? You would have to draw this shit out. You'd have to have some chalk. And you'd have to have a dude whose only job is to draw the chalk outlines of where we're getting all this energy from the southern side. Oh, wait, it stopped. We're getting this weird pull, this cold, different energy. Wait, the warm stuff's back. The warm stuff's back. And you'd be drawing these things. You'd be drawing them for billions of years before you grew feet, before you grew all the other organs, before you convinced the stomach, hey man, get inside, trust me, everything will be okay. And you started to build yourself on top of each other. You were imagining the sun before you had eyes. And so when you start to think about the psychic death, I think it's the hallucination death. Because all these psychic layers are just stories you told yourself that you never thought would die. You never thought the story would die of the sun. But really, the story is an hallucinogenic justification of what's happening to you from one little location. And that sunlight is being absorbed through all the other cells that get to tell you what it is. It has to be hallucinated. There is literally no way that this world could look the way that it looks. guys, we would have a boring life. We would just be living in total darkness. We'd smell like armpit the whole time, and we'd think this is just what normal reality is, and that the whole universe smells this way. It's a holographic engine. Sorry, that was a long one, but it's when you think about it this way, you're tripping balls all the time because you're no longer married to the inflammation of this has to be the case. And you no longer even start to try and explain, well, how does this work? You already know how it works. You have to draw a picture of what you're sensing, and you're doing that. And you're watching the picture that's been perfected by a crew that's been here for trillions of years, long before you came online. They built this ship for you. And you're here and you're in the captain's chair, and you're just like, holy shit, you guys really got your shit together. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thanks, James. Hey, Lauren, I see you back. Did you want to try to talk, and then we'll call on Brad, since you worked hard to get off and on again? No? Okay.
There we go. I'm so sorry.
No,
It's nice
sorry.
to see you all. I was just messing with my audio settings because I'm trying to read books again.
Oh, great.
Yeah. It's nice to see all the new people that joined too. Hi, guys. I just really wanted to ask James on that chart that you showed us, the zygote. Does that imply that it represents wholeness and balance to be at that particular point, and then to stray up, down, or north, south, east, west, whichever direction? Is that going into a more
It's a beautiful,
less balanced, less whole state?
yeah, it's a beautiful question. I honestly, I would respect anyone's answer to this because it really is a profound way to think about it. If you think about all the arts, Lauren, then I
Mhm.
think the answer is yeah. The the most perfect poised posture would be a balance in between. And we could call this Pat. That Saturday Night Live Pat is the perfection of what your posture would look like. But I do want to remind everybody that all the power, all the flux that happens in the world is only built from this imbalance that we create, this sort of sine wave. So in a way, I'd like for you to think about I think about this sometimes, and I wonder if the hermaphrodite would naturally feel more feminine as the moon is rising, and more masculine towards the high noon of day. So I, this is a 3 or 4 tiered kind of gender that would change states. So you start the day pre dawn. Maybe the moon is more dictating what your gender is, if it's more male or female. But then as the sun comes up, you start to become male. And then at noon, you're the maliest male. You're the mammalian. And then you start to lose. When I say you're losing your male at noon, I'm talking about you're losing your hermaphroditic male. The hypersexual male subdues. And keep in mind your cellular memory is I think has a lot to do with this because this is your center point. So if you identify as a hermaphroditic male, then that would be sort of your return to center. Your rudder is situated in that way where it's at that point. So in that case, I think that the perfect posture might be your quaternion, Lauren, your identity and your alignment to your current identity itself. So
So a fourfold being in a way,
yes,
or potential.
yes. And
Oh,
if you think about what I mean by what if back in the time before society was really forcing this on you, keep in mind a lot of druids were dudes in dresses. It's just that's how they were.
yeah.
And that time allowed you to flux your gender more, and you never really understood which kind you were. And only in that world would the true hermaphrodite be allowed to survive among you, and that you may feel that your hermaphroditic nature has broken when you are unable to self, when you have atrophy, which is what most hermaphrodites born now are born into an atrophitic state like that, where it looks like that's their center, but they weren't able to. Society didn't allow it. This is what I think is happening.
Do you believe before we were taught fertility, we actually were able to clone ourselves? Because,
Yeah,
I've heard a lot about that, but I'm not sure.
yeah. I think we were able to self ourselves, that we could seed
So,
ourselves. We could uh, take our sperm and put it in our uterus, fertilize our own eggs, and that's
Does that not happen in nature? Like,
yeah,
what
it
is it,
does.
parthenogenesis? What is that called?
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the name.
selfing is one of the terms that actually does count. You can use that, and yeah, I think parthenogenesis is exactly it. There's not just fish, frogs, but also I think it's unwise to say that this wasn't something that humans could do, because we have the anatomy, we have the dead bodies, we have jars of formaldehyde showing how these things work. And more importantly, the architecture of the body supports this 8 endocrine systems. I like to think of it like that, because really that's the only thing that's missing, is there's just another endocrine system. And you could picture how that would be. It's an option. My
Why
car
would that?
comes with
Why
a
would that not work?
DVD if you have this other option. And it's the same thing. Go ahead, Clinton.
Oh, just like you're saying, like the yin and the yang of it. So with the concept of lunacy and our 28-day calendar with the moon, you would just flux to your
Yep.
opposite aspect, to your unliving side, right? And
Yeah.
so your unconscious being that dark side of the moon, with that werewolfian state, if we were less societal, we would achieve it more often, maybe as we got closer to the peaks. And it
Yeah.
would probably change with where we are astrologically as well, not just, because it is our own cosmology that creates this world that we're perceiving. Like,
Yep.
I could not, James True, but I love you.
This is the Vitruvian man. Vitruvius copied the perfect scenario, the perfect ratios for all things in heaven. And Leonardo da Vinci drew that. He drew it as a famous drawing of the man that's inside a square and a circle. And that, I swear to you, this is the hermaphrodite, because it's a female circle and a male square, and they're superimposed, and that figure has 2 arms. And they're showing you the Vitruvian man, the ratio, that's 8 heads tall. It's 8. All the endocrine systems are expressed. Vitruvius felt that the ideal proportions was a hermaphrodite. And this is the biggest truth, I think, is how moved all of you are by that drawing before you knew that. That all of us resonated with that drawing. It penetrates almost every level of culture and consciousness. People say, wow, that's a cool thing. And I think this is that oracle of beauty that's showing you how these things work. And if you think about how eugenics is this thing, how it's even a thing, excuse me, it would be quite easy to imagine that there will be a company, if there's not already a company, that would be working to create a hermaphrodite, and that there's nothing any of us could do to stop that, even if we wanted to. And that if you look at yourself as being a man or a woman, or as humans being natural, that everything humans do is natural, this quest to become or create a hermaphrodite would have to be natural too. And if you look at it that way, you can start to see why the Temple of Athena is this conquering of wisdom that's been destroyed from the chimera from the fucking sky. And all these chimera are like slaughtered because the science got so good. The science got so deadly good that everyone was able to morph and shape shift themselves into whatever creature they desired, and that there's a lower realm where that's not allowed, at least a breathing. And this is, in my mind, this is the elevator that comes down the basement every 12,000 years and asks if you want to get the fuck on. And if you want to get on, let's go. Because it's going to, you think 666 is bad. You have no idea where we're going. So grow a tail because this thing's going up and you can't take it with you. You are learning a different skill here. And when you start to look at the garden or dojo earth, you're looking at, holy fuck, how would you teach someone how to control 3 trillion cattle prods connect? How would you even begin to teach that? The only thing come close would be mythology, story. Well, fuck, how are you going to do that? We need culture. You're gonna need tater tots, man. You need to invent corn dogs. You need to invent all these things that keep us on the same level, that keep us even. We need to point at the same thing and go, "That's the moon." We need to point at that, and we need to culturally have a war over is the moon female or is it male? And that culture needs to be one so that we're all objectively forced into the same mythology, and that's the only way that we can communicate with each other. And all that would be subtle. It has to subtly connect to you because you're just driving. You're driving across the state highway, it's flat as fuck, and you're just thinking about stars and Gemini, and then you're just like, wait a minute, there's like ovaries and blah, 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 and then this is growth. This is a barnacle on a reef formed because all this other shit existed. And that's getting you back to pleomorphism. You have gills in your neck, webbed toes, like just a true autonomy, over our genes. And I know this is the Luciferian agenda, but it sounds great to me. It does.
I think if you have the
Sounds
aperture,
destiny.
this app, always talked about aperture, and most of the people in this room have opened their aperture. They're enough open that they can receive something that is, you have to have a sun and a moon to push against, or a program to push against. There's no they and them, but there's the they in order to get to being able to be a new creature and to open up your aperture enough to relax into it, to be able to imaginate this experience. And I remember early on in my journey, I read this book called Middlesex. Has anyone read that book? It's about a hermaphrodite and what it's like to be both and not to be removed from one or the other, and living in, I think it was probably the 50s or something. I don't know, 60s. It was amazing to really put yourself into these places where you can open your aperture enough to be able to examine stuff that, to be a Luciferian, to be, a horned Mercury. I mean, it's just like all of these things is us, but you have to get to that place where you can, we're stretching into these new locales, So anyhow, Brad, your hands is up. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. Recently, James was talking about the secret societies on the I think the stream last week, but that's kind of funny because it's like I never would have imagined like talking about a Luciferian or secret society. Like it's kind of funny to wind up one day realizing, and because I think most of us here probably relate to this because of our life, like you live it and you kind of like wake up one day and you realize, like you're saying, what the fuck, am I a Luciferian? Like I had no idea. And then but like, so for me, being raised in church, very familiar with the Bible, it's so freaking funny that living through these things and like the actual experience of life will have something like we're talking about Luciferian. It's like the realization really only comes as it's lived. Do you know what I'm saying? And it makes me wonder because we were talking about the idea, and I know there was a lot of chat about whether or not the intention or the quality of they called them the lodge bros, right? But the fact that I do know that there's this idea that like approaching it in knowledge or understanding in a certain way, right? Like just that there's book reading, basically what I'm saying, right? And that's all great and fine, but like the actual experience of it hits in a whole different way, which is Laura, and you was talking about the zygote there, and this is kind of what I'm curious about, like so the idea that like you were saying this is this balanced sort of whole state, but at the same time the whole thing gets built by the movement around it, right? So that's kind of what I'm wondering is like that's what this whole game that where we're at is playing about, is the fact that we're learning to reach out in all these directions, and it's uncomfortable at first. There's shame, there's guilt, and all this, but the more we do it, the more comfortable we get doing it, and that kind of makes me wonder. It's like the reason maybe we've kind of had a tough time with society in our past, in our lifetime, in a way, if you could say, is because something innate in us is kind of wanting to push further out in directions that society's saying no, don't do, right? Trying to have us identify that definition, and that's the very reason for the whole inclination in the first place, is because it's, well, people were saying it's like you don't really get to a place until you can imagine it, right? That you first have to imagine it's possible. And it's so hard when you're dealing in a game of hallucination, but you don't know you're hallucinating, because that's a fantastic idea, James, that of course been through simulation and all this. But the first time I'd heard it suggested that in the mercy seat, we're the one doing the, and it's a hallucination that like, if you really do get to that point, I'm just saying, it's like it really does. You start to, for the first time, say, well, if it is a hallucination, all things should be possible. Whereas before you sort of think of it like that, you're in the mechanical world. Science, everything is telling you that things are so defined, and that this is such a slow process because of that. Because the definitions, like we're saying, do have to be there to get us here. Because again, we would not be here if we did not have the structures. I love how you brought about the idea of talking about the generations, and how, for me, helping understanding the fact that when you look back at the generations that came before, and you can look back and say, oh, well, they were broken in a different sort of way, and they say that the new generations are broken in a different sort of way, and you have this sort of push and pull between, say, the trans movement now and the more traditional family unit. But understanding the necessity of all those steps along the way, and the identities that needed to be formed in order to get us here,
Yeah.
that it's like,
Well, if you carry the hallucination even further, then Elvis is a hallucination. And he started to gyrate his hips because we were starting to loosen our mulatara, our sexual chakra, our root chakra is actually better. And that root chakra, we would have to see, we're always having to visualize the music, because that's how we hear it. We hear it by visualizing it. The hallucination is the sound of reality itself. And so when you look at every culture, even back before Paulianism, before saints were tortured, was always a proof. Oh, you believe that? Yes, I believe that. We'll prove it. Well, what do you mean prove it? I need you to die for it. I need you to die for it. This happens everywhere. Like culturally, not just physical death, but like financial death, economic death, social death, all those things, all of them combined even. And that the conviction is the shit test. And the trans agenda is a shit test. And the mutilations that are happening because we are not capable of being comfortable being pleomorphic. It's dangerous ground for us, and we're willing to cut off our own body parts to understand. Every time that I've listened to a trans person who's decided to YouTube their diary or their journey, I I'm always wondering, and I've asked them before, why do you? I'm not sure that the mutilation part is necessary.
right.
I don't know if that part is necessary. I think that this is an excuse to mutilate yourself, because those are two different recipes that are converging inside of a galactic center of I am. So you can't really say they're wrong, because ultimately you get to mutilate yourself. I'm going to have to back you up on that. I'm not going to like it. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try and pollinate you not to do it, but I know that you get to do that. I know you do. And when I see these, it makes me sad, because I know that all of this comes down to, you can't play in public. You can't use your imagination in public. You can't get on a bus and say, "Look, I'm a beautiful Japanese unicorn. and I got my fuzzy boots on, and I got a horn on my head, and it's a rainbow horn, and I'm listening to my stereo, and I'm a 52-year-old with a hairy back, and it's hot outside, and I'm wearing this is getting weird, but we don't allow that in society, and so we're going to mutilate ourselves because we want to be able to pleomorph. The people that are wanting to identify, the men that are wanting to identify as women, the women that are wanting to identify as men, I think they want to be able to use their imagination in public because they can't handle, they don't want to, it's not that they can't. I think that they just think too highly of their experience. I think they feel more entitled. Thank God they do. They feel more entitled where it's like, look, I should be able to enjoy my experience here. I don't want to have to fucking suffer. Look, I get you think you needed to suffer, but fuck you. You're an idiot. Look at the world you built for me. Why do I have to suffer in this too? I'm not going to get a mortgage. I'm not going to get a job. I mean, you get it. All the complaints, this is why I was talking about why complaints are so valuable. All the complaints you hear really are just the rising of entitlement. And that rise of entitlement would look like, I want to wear a fucking tail.
Yeah.
I want to feel like this. I
And you know what's sad is the reaction to it so many times isn't it the fact that the people who react to it the strongest are people who are showing you how uncomfortable they are with themselves. Like
it's not,
that's
yeah. And it's
okay.
not sad. And
What
I think you're not looking correctly at the true magic in the room. Yes, there's a sad part in the room for sure. That's a vortex, but that vortex is caused because of a galactic center of something else. This sun is supernovaing. This identity is saying, fuck all of you. Fuck all of you. This is who I am. And everyone else is collapsing around it because that's how fucking powerful the transformation is. You're looking at pure raw alchemy, and this taxonomy is always going to suck. This isn't supposed to feel good. The top of this pyramid is in your butt, man. It's fucking sucks to be right there. There's nowhere to stand. If you stand on it, it's going to poke your foot. There's nothing comfortable in that, because if there was, there would already be a taxonomy of you. It would already be done. And you could just slot into the world and just go through your experiences and just log in and black mirror yourself, whatever it takes. So the I amness is supposed to be, I'm sorry, but I think it's supposed to hurts. It's supposed to be what we would call painful, but I just mean this. It's supposed to be a heavy signal. And that heavy signal is only going to be digestible. You can't burn yourself. The pizza is going to suck when you burn the top of your mouth. You're fucked for hours. You might as well not eat it. And we force ourselves into these experiences where we're like, no, you have to, because I've reached the highest level. I have to. No, you don't. You really fucking don't. Because you have this one shot to say, can I stay at this level? Can I ingest this experience? And the only way you're going to be able to ingest this experience is, are you comfortable? Are you comfortable for this? Is this going to be good? Because you're doing that anyway. So I think you step in and out. You step in and out of your I amness. You step into it, it gets expensive. People are just like, oh, did you stop talking about hermaphrodites? Or, all the pressure you guys get. You feel that. Then you're just like, you know what? I just need to fucking back off, and I'm just gonna be this identity, this taxonomy. I'm gonna do this. And
Yeah.
so you strive, you poke up and down from time to time based off your calories. You learn to use your energy to trampoline it. That's what I try and do. I try and use every book to, can I trampoline myself to where it's even more comfortable to be who I am? Guys, it was fucking terrifying to publish Arc of Baphomet, because I'm sitting there talking. I'm just like, James, why are you saying? And I'm just like, because it's what's there. It's like the lady on the picture today. It's like, look, it's just what the fucking card says. What do you want me to do? Do you really want me to fucking tell you that you're going to live a long life and meet a tall, dark stranger who's going to take care of you? Is that what you want to fucking hear? Because I cannot say it. I can't pull it off, man.
Well, thank God you can't, because that's one of the serious.
I already do, probably. That's the only reason why I'm better at it, is because I think I'm constantly going, you know what, you weren't being maybe as honest as you, like, I'm constantly haunted by that, about how come I'm not seeing everything clearly.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
You and me both, bro. That's why, like, my biggest fear is that I'm lying to myself, right? Which is what kind of drives me in this sort of way. It's like because the first time I sort of realized, okay, this sort of idea I have, or it was a lie. It was the first time I realized I was telling myself the lie. It's like that sort of, like you said, using the shame or to find out where you're radared in. That really bothered me, and I really wanted to be like, well, goddamn it, I don't want to lie to myself, and
Yeah,
so
yeah. First you chase your lies, then you realize this is your pet. This is your familiar. It's a cat.
yeah.
You don't want to chase the cat. The cat lives here. The cat is going to shit in the tub. It's what it does, man. It's what it
You
does.
know,
You know.
it's interesting. I have a very good friend that's transitioned to a she, and she's in her probably early 30s. I've never seen a more balanced human being to walk in the world, and she's way more feminine than I ever have been.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful gift to see how she approaches the world without. It's actually inspiring. She used to hang around with my friend who died, and she was in her mid 70s, and everyone said, I don't see how you guys are like have anything in common, but the way that this human has chose to do this is so beautiful and gracious. And then I've been looking at a lot of that, whatever you want to call self-mutilation. Maybe it's entitlement, I don't know. But these people that are turning into aliens, they're having all these implants and they're having all of this work done. And it's men and women, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're just distorting their faces, they're pushing Botox, they have no feelings on there. You can't sense an emotion in their face. And it's like, so you have that going on with this other thing that with my friend, I don't think that they need to go full transition. It was like almost like if when this person was a he probably looked like a she, very slight bone, very small, beautiful, like more she than a he, and presents with these giant heels. It's like, I look at this and it's beautiful.
Yeah. I know there's a hand up, but I want to say really quick. I even think that even the idea of transitioning, I think, is the inflammation. First of all, I'm fine with us using this language to talk about it because it's the only way we can actually talk about it and name it. In addition to that, I think there's a place where it's not really about their identifying male or female. It's really going to be more about they're just themselves.
Yeah.
They're just Don or Linda or
Yep.
Clintock McGillicuddy. Eventually we'll be able to name ourselves again. We don't do that, but
Yeah.
eventually we'll be able to name ourselves again. You'll turn 13. I probably would have picked Ace Frehley. I'd be fucked because I'd be like, yeah, I'm Ace Frehley the second. I'm
Yep.
the prime grandmaster of Ace Frehley Dillon or something. And that this would be part of us carving our identity because we learned to realize we have ownership of that. Therefore,
Yeah.
we can regret our decisions to it. So even how we express ourselves will eventually not be male or female. The
Mm-mm.
only time those things I think would come up is when someone wants to enter into a fertility relationship with someone else. Then, only
Yeah.
then, I think those things will pop right back out.
Yep.
And just like Jacob and Sarah will cover or uncover what's necessary, that those things will happen too. So,
Yeah, thanks, James. Hey, Lauren, your hand's up.
Hey, just real quick. I've always wondered what it said about me at age 28. It feels like my psyche just turned away from fertility completely. I think you mentioned that as like the Prajapati, or the procreative power in the show earlier today. But when you spoke of mutilation, it made me remember that, at that age, I decided to get my tubes tied. And not only that, but I decided to also get like a uterine ablation. So there would be no going back, no choice, and, no woman time like every month either. And I'm really happy that I made that decision. But I remember people at the time, like, you're 28, you sure I was quite sure. But yeah, it was a big deal. And yeah, I just wonder what that says about me. But I feel whole, even though some people wouldn't view me as that way.
I
I don't know.
I've put a lot of thought into this, and I hope I'm not going to project this onto you.
Oh,
But
go ahead.
I see. I really got to be careful of this because I think having kids is great. I wouldn't be here if someone didn't have kids. I think that when you are choosing to raise a family, the word sacrifice doesn't actually fully cover what's happening. And I think that you are taking your identity and stopping it. You're certainly growing as a person, don't get me wrong, but your personal destiny, your personal navigation is completely changed, and you don't even get to dictate where you go, honestly. It's just how I sense it. And I've always noticed that, why am I coming to this earth and then getting exactly to the point to where I'm ready to go out on my destiny, and then I'm instantly starting a family again? It always felt to me like you're getting all ready to go sailing. You're getting everything. You're loading the boat. You've got all your supplies. You've got your dreams. You're saying, this is what I'm doing. And then as soon as you do it, you're like, well, I'm gonna build another sailboat instead. I'm
I
gonna
have
create
to
another
agree.
sailor instead,
Yeah.
and that sailor is gonna do something. And that this is what I would call a stem or a stalk. I think that this idea is, I'm not ready to flower yet, but I know someone who is. And that someone who is coming, and it's my destiny to bequeath this to them. So I'm going to not flower for the sake of this stalk going to another place and the flower coming there. So the way that I'm projecting myself onto you is because I feel like that's what's happened to me. I think that the society told me that was important. I felt it was important, but also deep down I was resisting because I really had to see what the fuck was going to come out, what this flower was going to look like. And I know for a fact that all the chances that I've done in my life, which have been some horrible decisions, I mean that with love, would never have even been an option for me to explore had I sacrificed this flower for someone else.
I
And
sort of feel like I got the best of both worlds, doing it younger and then now having a life now where there's possibilities that are open.
yeah,
It's a delicate balance, I think.
Well,
Mm.
I'll salute you on that, Lauren, because I've had kids too, and I will say, sort of a reflection, like I was not the driver of wanting the kids, but I was just falling toward the standard sort of things. But yes, I have my kids young enough that they're kind of where you are now, where it's like I'm my kids are just about the age, my son's graduated, but yes, where it's
Yeah.
like what has been my that what my life became, like you were saying here, right? That's what it was for, and I'm glad that, I mean, I think we all live our own paths, and our I don't think anything's broken, so that, we do what we do. But
I
yeah,
think the
it's
flower,
powerful stuff you're talking about with the flower more metaphor,
I
James.
think the flower involves regret too.
Yeah.
I have regret, and I feel cheated, and I feel this is the underside of that. So I'm just saying that this is part of what makes it a flower. I
I
mean,
just love it to bring it up because I do think I've had people say that you, if you don't, I just think both are valid, like you're saying. I think it's valid
Yeah.
to have children. It's also valid not to have children.
I believe both paths are beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I had a child very young, and I got to be both a mother and a grandmother, and now I don't really feel I missed anything. Um, and
Good point there,
I
Lauren.
was always so grateful that I didn't have another one, because then I thought every year, every 5 years, then you delay your other flower, that you get to be the uniqueness of that thing without being the mother or grandmother. So I'm having that now. So yeah, we have about a minute if anyone has anything quick to say.
I'll throw
There's
in one.
so many children out there, and us adults that we just can kind of parent each other,
I
through it
agree.
Mm.
all.
I,
Yeah.
I agree, Clinton. I don't think that
You know,
you can be a mother to someone,
Absolutely.
way older, and a child to someone younger. It's not age limited either.
yeah,
like I see siblings and parents and all of us here. This is what the beautiful thing of the dojo is for me, and then all the other crazy shit that comes with it.
Right.
I love you guys.
I love you too. I love
It's the
everybody here.
best place ever.
Yeah, it really is
It's
such a
pretty
it's
cool
a
fucking
beautiful
playground.
family, and,
Hey.
and thank you everybody for coming tonight. It's been great to have this open dojo. It was been pleasurable. It's good to see you over there, Renee, and everybody. Thank you. So unmute and say goodbye, and thanks everybody. Happy Groundhog Day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Happy
Have a
Groundhog
good
Day.
Have a
Thank
good
you
night.
and have a good day.
Love you guys.
Love you.